Good evening, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Tonight the topic is why the four Ariyan fruits is the most important Dhamma. Why I chose this topic is because there is some wrong views about the four Ariyan fruits. As you may know, I originally practiced Mahayana Buddhism, 6 years as a layman and 3 years as a renunciant. And in Mahayana Buddhism, they like to say that the four Ariyan fruits is, like a kindergarten Dhamma. That is very far from the truth. They put down the four Ariyan fruits, 12 links of dependent origination, etc. So I want to show you that the four Ariyan fruits is the most important Dhamma. In the Samyutta Nikaya, which is the Nikaya containing the most important suttas, the most profound and deep suttas, we have in chapter 56, Satcha Samyutta, 21st Sutta, 56.21. There the Buddha said, monks, it is because of not understanding and not penetrating the four Ariyan fruits that you and I have roamed and wandered through this long journey of samsara. So we go through the round of samsara endlessly, suffering because we have not understood the four Ariyan truths. In another sutta, 56.3 of the Samyutta Nikaya, they said, whoever rightly went forth from the home life into homelessness, all did so in order to understand the four Ariyan truths. And this refers to the monks in the past, the present and the future. So, if a person goes forth from the home life into homelessness with the right motive, it is to understand the four Ariyan truths. And then also in Sutta 56.24, the Buddha said, whichever Arahant, Sammasambuddha, in the past, present or future, all became enlightened basically by understanding the four Ariyan truths. So we find in the case of our Buddha, Gautama Buddha or Sakyamuni Buddha, on the night of enlightenment, the first watch he contemplated his past lives. The second watch he used his heavenly eye or third eye to see beings dying and passing away, and he understood the working of karma. We are reborn according to our karma. And then on the third watch, the last watch of the night, between 2 and 6 a.m., he contemplated on the four Ariyan truths and became enlightened. So it is because of thoroughly understanding the four Ariyan truths that a person becomes enlightened. And in Sutta 56.32 in the Samyutta Nikaya, it is said that it is impossible to make an end of suffering without having made the breakthrough to understanding the four Ariyan truths. So it is impossible for us to end suffering if we don't thoroughly understand the four Ariyan truths. In the Samyutta Nikaya 56.17 again, the Buddha said, monks, not knowing suffering, not knowing the cause of suffering, not knowing the cessation of suffering, not knowing the path leading to the cessation of suffering, this is called ignorance. So ignorance means ignorant of the four Ariyan truths. So we can see from this that the four Ariyan truths is so important. So what is the four Ariyan truths? First one is suffering. Since it is so important and you all are serious Buddhists, can you tell me what is the definition the Buddha gave? Who can tell me? Anybody can raise the hand and tell me in detail exactly what how the Buddha defines suffering. And there's a problem with us, We listen to the Dhamma, we understand. If it goes in one ear, goes out the other ear. Sudah lupa lah. So, you see in the Dhamma Cakka Pavatthana Sutta, the first discourse of the Buddha said, now these monks is the Ariyan truth of suffering. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering. Union with the dislike is suffering. Separation from the like is suffering. Not to get what one wants is suffering. In brief, the five aggregates of attachment are suffering. So you see, birth is suffering, aging, sickness, death. Union with the dislike, separation from the like. Not to get what one wants. Birth, you can say, is bodily suffering. Aging doesn't give us bodily suffering, but it gives us mental suffering. When we age, we want to hide our age. We dye our hair. We go for Botox and all this. And then sickness is physical pain. And death, there are some people who have died 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They say death is not suffering, it's not painful at all. It's like a dream. You go off to sleep. And we are afraid of death for various reasons. One is because we are afraid to be separated from the ones we love, to be separated from our property, etc. And worse still, if your karma is no good, you are afraid you are going to a woeful place of rebirth. And usually 2 or 3 days before a person passes away, that person will know. That person will get vision of where he's going. And for most people, it is frightening. Because for most people, the karma is not so good. That's why we have to prepare. Death can come any time. We don't know, isn't it? So we have to be prepared. And then union with the dislike, separation from the like, not to get what one wants. All this is like and dislike, attachment. And then the important part is, in brief, the five aggregates of attachment are suffering. Why is the five aggregates of attachment suffering? The five aggregates refers to the body, feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. And it can also be said to be body and mind. So we take the body and mind to be I or mine, myself. But everything in the world must change. So when it changes and we are attached, this I and mine gives us suffering. So basically, it is the view of a self that we have. Nature has made it such that every being has this perception of a self. And it is for the purpose of self-preservation. So we fight for survival. From the moment we are born until we die, we fight for survival. See, for example, a baby is born. The first thing he does is gasp for air. He wants to breathe, he wants to live. So he gasps for air. So until the last moment or so, before we die, also we are gasping for breath. But in between, we do a lot of things, a lot of karma. And often we do evil karma, which brings us to woeful planes of rebirth. So, understanding the four Ariyan truths is so important if we don't want to suffer. So, why we want to understand the four Ariyan truths is to know that existence is suffering, and then we want to know the cause of suffering and how to see suffering and the path that brings us to cessation of suffering. Now the second Ariyan truth, now this monks is the Ariyan truth of the cause of suffering. It is this craving which leads to renewed being or existence, accompanied by delight and lust, seeking delight now here, now there. That is, craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. So the cause of suffering is craving. You notice carefully, it is this craving which leads to renewed being or existence. Leads to renewed being or existence. It's not, the Buddha did not say, it is this craving which leads to renewed rebirth. It is not rebirth actually that causes the suffering. It is this being, bhava, sometimes translated as becoming or existence. And this word, bhava, being, means the view of a self. We have a view of a being. We have a view that we exist. So because we have this view of existence, of this self, we want to protect the self. And if there is any danger, we fear. And the greatest fear is fear for our life. Yeah. Even in your sleep also you fear for your life. Yeah. And you're chased by some ghost or something. So here it talks about craving for sensual pleasures in the world. If you look around us, animals and young people and all that, soon after animals are born or young people are born, they are so happy, they want to enjoy life. Forest monks, we live in forest areas. I just came back from 3 months retreat in a cave on Penang Hill. I saw this murai batu, this bird. I had made this pipe for it to make a nest. And sure enough, he went to make a nest there and gave birth to 2 babies. So when the baby flew out of the nest, the mother was so happy, cried so loud. I never heard this type of bird cry so loud. And then after that, he was teaching the baby how to make sounds. You call the baby and the baby will reply. Call and reply. So you see birds, you can see them flying, so happy in the air. So it's the same with all beings. When we have the energy to enjoy ourselves, we see, we go all out to enjoy ourselves. If there was no pleasure in the world, no being will want to live. Yeah, that's why sometimes when we are old and we are disabled, you have to lie in bed all the time. You don't feel like living. What is there to live for? You want to die, isn't it? So craving for sensual pleasures is what makes us want to live. And craving for existence is craving to continue to be for life. And a craving for non-existence, this is a very minor part of beings who want non-existence. These are some people are overwhelmed by suffering. Maybe the business become bankrupt, or the wife has died of cancer or something. Then that person wants to commit suicide. So this is minority. So mainly it is craving for sensual pleasures and craving for existence that makes us continue on the round of rebirths. In fact, in the Nidana Samyutta, which talks about the 12 links of dependent origination, it is said in Sutta 12.66, whatever in the world has a pleasant and agreeable nature, it is here that this craving arises. So whatever makes us enjoy, here, craving arises here. Now the third Ariyan truth. Now this monks is the Ariyan truth of the cessation of suffering. It is the remainderless fading away and extinction of that same craving, the giving up and abandonment of it, liberation from it, detachment from it. Now this giving up of that craving is not easy at all. In one sutta, the Buddha gave this elephant simile. The Buddha said, in the Buddha's days, they get these elephants from the forest. So they bring in these trained elephants, and then they catch this wild elephant and they drag it out. But he doesn't want to come out. He likes to stay in the forest. So they have to use brute strength of one or two other elephants to drag it out. And then after it is dragged out, comes to the king's palace or what, then they slowly train it. And then if it starts to take the food, then they know it will survive. Then they start to train it step by step until it becomes a formidable war elephant, well trained. It can stand blows, it can stand hitting and all that. It can even give up his life for the trainer. So the Buddha used this simile for the training of a monk. The Buddha said, just as the elephant doesn't want to come out of the forest, so a person does not want to renounce, doesn't want to give up sensual pleasures, wants to enjoy life. Becoming a monk, a lot of things you cannot enjoy. So most people don't want to renounce, especially nowadays when life is good. So even less people want to renounce. So after that person renounces, then he goes to the stages of training. So giving up of this craving is very difficult, very, very difficult. And the reason is most people we don't see the Dhamma. If you understand the Dhamma, you listen to the suttas enough and you understand, you know what is coming. A lot of people are like children. Children, you tell them to study hard for your own good, for your future. They don't see, they don't see. Yeah, they're not willing to study. Why? They want to enjoy. So same with adults. We don't see the danger coming. We don't see we're going to die soon. And we don't see the round of rebirths. We may take rebirth in a ghost realm. That we don't see. So a lot of people are like children. We cannot give up this craving. So we have to give up this craving to end our suffering. Now the fourth one, now this monks is the Ariyan truth of the path leading to the cessation of suffering. It is this Ariyan eight-factored path, Arya Tangika Magga, that is right view, right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, or right mindfulness, and right concentration. So there are 8 factors here, but these 8 factors can also be considered to be 3 main things like Sila, Samadhi, Panya, moral conduct, concentration and wisdom. And also how to practice this Ariyan Eightfold Path is given in Majjhima Nikaya 117. It is said that there is only one entrance to the Ariyan Eightfold Path, and that is right view. You must enter by right view, the first factor. And after you attain right view, it will bring you to right thoughts. And right thoughts will bring you to right speech, right action, etc. I think end of last year I gave a talk called the Sutta Guide to Paths and Fruits. And there I've explained quite clearly. So I think I got some CDs and books you can get here. And that DVD on that talk is also here. That is an important talk if you think you want to get paths and fruits. Now there is Sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya 56.31. Once the Buddha was with his monks and he gathered some leaves in his hand, Singsapa leaves. And then he asked his monk disciples, he said, you see the leaves in my hand, how is it compared to the leaves in the forest? Is it a lot compared to the leaves in the forest? And the monk said, the leaves in your hand, Bhagava, are so few compared to the leaves in the forest. It is not even 1/16 of the leaves in the forest. It is not even a fraction of the leaves in the forest. Cannot compare at all. So the Buddha said, in the same way, the Buddha said, what I teach you is like the leaves in my hand. What I know is like the leaves in the forest. So the Buddha knows a lot of things, but he does not teach us. He teaches us only so little, and what he teaches us is only the 4 Ariyan truths. In the Majjhima Nikaya Sutta 28, there is an elephant footprint simile sutta. Venerable Sariputta said, friends, just as the footprint of any living being that walks can be placed within an elephant's footprint, and so the elephant's footprint is declared the chief of them because of its great size, so too all wholesome Dhammas can be included in the 4 Ariyan truths. So, all the Buddha's Dhamma is included in the 4 Ariyan truths. So, to make us understand the 4 Ariyan truths, the Buddha specifically said that we should make an effort to understand 3 topics. One is the 5 aggregates of attachment. To see that this body and mind is impermanent. It is dependent on conditions. It has no core. This word anatta means, sometimes we translate it as no self. The real meaning is that there is no unchanging core, no something that is unchanging. So we take this body and the mind to be the self. But the Buddha said our body is just like foam. If you take some water and you throw fat powder into it and you stir, you get a lot of foam, bubbles. Our body is exactly like that. Why? Because our body is made up of cells. And these cells, just like the foam, they suddenly emerge, are born, and some will die. Some are born and some are die. Every second, our cells are changing. Every second. So science tells us that after 7 years, all the cells in our body is changed totally. Now the body that you have, all the cells in your body now, 7 years later, all disappeared, all died out. You have a new set of cells. So we are changing all the time. So there is no core in us, nothing that is permanent, nothing you can hold on to. Same with the mind. Mind is changing even faster. So the 5 aggregates, the suttas on the 5 aggregates is to make us see that these 5 aggregates, the body and the mind, give us suffering. Make us suffer and we suffer because we take it to be I and mine. And then the other topic is the 6 sense bases or 6 sense spheres, 6 sense fields, salayatana. The eye base, the ear base, the nose, tongue, body and mind. And the Buddha said the 6 external sense objects are like Mara's bait, trying to snare us. So we are attracted by sights. We like to see beautiful sights. Nowadays people are more wealthy. They like to go to China, go to Europe, sightseeing. And then hearing good music, smelling, taste good food, etc. So all these are Mara's snare. So the Buddha is trying to tell us through these suttas the danger in the world, the danger of the six sense objects always trying to snare us. Then the third topic that's very important is the 12 links of dependent origination. Trying to make us see how suffering arises and how to eliminate suffering. And then on the practice part, the Buddha taught the 37 Bodhipakya Dhammas, the 4 Satipatthana, the 4 Iddhipada, the 4 Samappadana, the 5 Indriya, 5 Bala, 7 Bojjhanga, Ariya Atangika Magga. And then for his monks, the Buddha also taught to guard the six sense doors. Always guard the six sense doors. Don't get snared by beautiful sights, sounds, etc. And then to practice moderation in eating. If we eat too much, we will sleep too much. And then diligence in wakefulness. And then aloofness from society. So all these is making us understand the 4 Ariyan truths. Now in the Samyutta Nikaya 56.37, it is said that the forerunner and precursor of the breakthrough to the 4 Ariyan truths is right view. So to understand the 4 Ariyan truths, first you must understand the right view. Just as I mentioned just now, Majjhima Nikaya 117 says to practice the Ariyan Eightfold Path, you must start with right view. Right view means understanding, the basic understanding of the 4 Ariyan truths. But then this right view has many levels. And because it has many levels, you have many levels of Ariya. So in the Sutta, Anguttara Nikaya 9.9, the Buddha says there are 9 types of beings in the world. 9 types of beings. The first one is the Putujana, an ordinary worldling who go round and round the samsara. And then the other 8 are Aryans, first path, first fruit, second path, second fruit, third path, third fruit, fourth path, fourth fruit. And the fourth fruit person is an enlightened being, fully enlightened. The others have not finished their work. So these indicate the different levels of wisdom, the different levels of understanding the 4 Ariyan truths. Now in the Majjhima Nikaya 43, they said that there are only 2 conditions for the arising of right view. The voice of another and yoniso manasikara. I like to translate it as focused attention. So only the voice of another teaching us the true Dhamma, and we are focused in listening to it, then only we can get right view. So it's clear from here that it is listening to the Dhamma that brings us to right view. But listening to what Dhamma? In the Anguttara Nikaya 4.180, the Buddha said that if any monk or any Sangha or any group of monks or any group of learned monks say that the Buddha taught such and such, the Buddha said you should not accept it, you should not reject it, but compare it with the suttas and the Vinaya. So the Dhamma refers to the suttas. And it is clear now from excavations in India that the original suttas are in the 5 Nikayas. Basically the 4 Nikayas, and the last one is called the minor collection of suttas, which now has grown. So actually the Kuddaka Nikaya, only 6 books are reliable. Now in Samyutta Nikaya 46.38, the Buddha said, when monks, an Aryan disciple listens to the Dhamma with eager ears, attending to it as a matter of vital concern, directing his whole mind to it, on that occasion the 5 hindrances are not present in him. On that occasion the 7 factors of enlightenment, bojjhangas, go to fulfillment by development.